Hello and welcome to another episode of AskBR. My name is Ronak and I'm one of the founders of Fully Filmy, a pop culture store that celebrates everything you love. And we're really excited to partner up with Film Companion South just for you. So, what you guys do is in every episode, you guys send in some amazing questions and BR answers them for you. But we thought we could take it a little notch higher. We wanted to reward you for your curiosity. So here's the deal. In every episode of Ask PR, the top three questions will win free t shirts and goodies from fullyfilmy.in. So, yeah, stay curious and cheers.
Thank you for that, Ronak. So, all of you do keep tuned to our social media handles to know which ones of you won. And now, on to this episode of AskBR, which is about 007 Bond. I wanted to have this grand opening where I come in with a gun and then suddenly face the camera and then do a dishum and then, those gear-like things keep the inside of the revolver. You see all that. But then it's me. I can't do a Bond. I can't do a Skyfall. I can probably do a Hairfall, but then let's not go there. So the first question comes from Abhinandan PR. How will Bond movies evolve after DC's exit? I mean, he made the character more human, vulnerable, and acceptable, which wasn't the case earlier. Now there's more to Bond movies than just panache, suits, exotic locations, etc., etc. I love the word evolve. I mean, in the sense, do we want Bond movies to evolve? Right? It's a set property, right? It's this thing. One of the things that endeared us to Bond was the fact that here was a guy who could do anything that we only dreamt of, like at max, right? It's like a Superman, being Superman or something like that, except that he was a living person and managed to survive. My favorite part about all these Bond movies is there'll be like some 100 people with 100 machine guns behind him shooting, and not one bullet will ever hit Bond. That's the magic of the guy, right? Casino Royale is one of my all-time favorite Bond movies. I mean, it's brilliant in its writing. The screenplay is astoundingly astounding. It's like, I mean, if you say Chinatown is the reference for drama or something like that, then the screenplay for Casino Royale is a template for action films. So it's amazing. The stunts are amazing. The way they got into Bond and everything was amazing. But somehow I felt the rest of the films didn't quite measure up to that. And I think that was because they were trying to always think, how do we evolve with Bond? How do we make Bond this? How do we make Bond that? And I'm like, at some point, Bond movies are just the same thing every 2 years. Why do we want to evolve it that much? I really felt that the one big weakness in the new movie, No Time to Die, was Bond's relationship with the Madeline character. I really felt that if you really want to, make that emotional, make Bond not just like the sex machine, but an actual emotional person, a vulnerable person with a daughter and things like that. You've got to spend more time with these two, spending time with each other, because listen, neither of them are normal people. They're both damaged in their own ways. She because she's the daughter of a Spectre agent, and he because he's just become this ruthless killing machine over the years, and he probably doesn't even have a heart after Tracy Bond died in On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which is again one of the best Bonds ever, and whose plot is basically the plot of No Time to Die, with all the bio things being dispersed by ordinary people and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. This evolve question is always a question mark. Like, do I want him to evolve? Do I want him to become politically correct? Do I want him to become? I mean, this is a movie. This is fiction. Why don't we have like a guy who's just a good killer and probably not so great a guy? I don't know. That's my thing. It's like you evolve and then you become so sensitive, and suddenly Bond is walking his little girl to school and all that. I'm not sure I want that in a Bond. So the evolved question has always been a question mark for me. Arvind Chandrasekharan asked, which film do you think among Craig's Bonds is well written? I just said that. The first one, Casino Royale. Brilliant, 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 brilliant film. I mean, it's just out of the world. If you're a screenplay guy, read it. It's just so amazing. Do you think the 007 series has become a cliche and repetitive over the years? I do agree there have been wonderful films in the series. The reason I feel it worked before and not now is the larger than life element is gone. Like Odd Job from Goldfinger, Zhao from Die Another Day, and Jaws from Moonraker. These characters had an eccentric element to them. And who's your favorite Bond villain? My favorite Bond villain is probably Goldfinger. I think the Sean Connery films are amazing. For the record, I just think the two best Bonds are Sean Connery and Daniel Craig, with Timothy Dalton coming in a close second simply because there weren't enough Timothy Dalton movies to judge Bond as Bond, because these guys, they look like they could kill. They were killers. They were like, they had that hardness to the face. They you didn't look at them and say, wow, what a magnetic guy. You were like, okay, I think I need to be careful about this person. So I really think that was a big strength in these three Bonds. But yeah, Goldfinger is an amazing film, and I think Goldfinger would be my favorite Bond. When Bond was released, like in the 60s and then the 70s, you have to realize that that was the pre-Star Wars era, right? So, which means that the screen was a pretty modest thing. You could get away with certain amounts of fantasy and all that, but even movies like Planet of the Apes with Charlton Heston, those kinds of films, they weren't really about enormous special effects and like action sequences and all that kind of stuff. If you had to name something, people would say, oh, the chariot race in Ben-Hur or something like that, because it was so rare to come across something so sustained happening. Once Star Wars happened, the whole landscape changed, right? So, which means that what was special about the earlier Bonds, like in Thunderball, Bond lands on the ground in a, like in a parachute, and it just seems so cool at that point. All that stopped being very, very cool simply because suddenly special effects took over like anything. Bond was special because he could do things like special effects in a normal world. But now that you have special effects and you look at an average Marvel movie, everybody is there throwing balls of fire, they're doing this, they're doing that, they're flying, they're, doing everything. There's nothing left for Bond to be special about. One thing that people have to remember is what made Bond Bond was that touch of camp. There was that was marvelous. Having Jaws, for instance, it's like this monster guy with steel teeth. I mean, what a lovely campy element, right, to this whole thing. It's not serious. You can't take him seriously, and yet he looks dangerous. So that campy element is what made Bond so much fun as well. And then slowly they started stripping away all the fun because now you want different kinds of Bond. And I think that like Odd Job, again another great thing, or the famous Christopher Lee character Scaramanga from The Man with the Golden Gun. I mean, these are great Bond villains. They have their eccentricities. You look at them and you go like, it's like watching this fantastic masala movie. And unfortunately, over years, everybody became very, very serious. I mean, and really, with No Time to Die, I think we had two of the worst Bond villains ever, because the Rami Malek character did not work for me at all. I mean, those things with lethal flowers and all that. And with Blofeld, I was even more like blown away at how they treated the character. The character's entrance, I mean, they made such a big fuss about him coming out of that cage, and that cage is moving and all that is happening. And then you have the most underwhelming conversation, and then he dies. I'm like, hello, that's Blofeld? It's gone. So I think your question about these eccentric villains, which I would also extrapolate to camp, is a very important thing. The next question comes from Surya Prakash. After Craig, Bond movies have become very personal. They dealt with his and M's past and all that kind of stuff. Doesn't it diminish the larger appeal of these movies? They don't need to save the world every time, but the larger than life action pieces don't exactly serve purpose if it is very personal. I would also ask you to see Timothy Dalton's film License to Kill, which is one of the best Bond movies ever. And it is again not a global thing, it's very personal because Felix Leiter has just gotten married, and Felix's wife has been killed, and Bond makes it personal. It makes it a personal mission. He's like, I don't care if I'm serving the government or not. This is not a government job. This is a personal job for me. It's one of the great Bond movies. Yeah, as about the larger than life set pieces, like I said, there was just like Bond, right? Pre Star Wars. Now post Star Wars, you don't just have the Bond movies. You also have the Bourne movies. You have the Mission Impossible movies. You have all these things that are all pretty much trying to do the same thing, which is to save the world. There are microchips, there are spies, there are this, there is that, there is that. So the uniqueness of Bond has kind of diminished. So I think the challenge really, for coming back to either the first question or the second question, the challenge really is for them to find a reason for Bond to still exist amidst Ethan Hunt and Jason Bourne and all these people. Is like, what makes Bond Bond? I think that is going to be really interesting to find out, because I think they're talking about Henry Cavill, Idris Elba, a bunch of people, which is all interesting. But I think they first have to figure out what makes Bond Bond, right? I mean, like, if we are in a world where you have all these one of my favorite set pieces in all of cinema is the part where Tom Cruise hangs from the ceiling in Mission Impossible 1 and kind of thing. Look at that whole sequence, how beautifully it's directed, right? It's not a larger than life set piece. It looks very so real. I mean, Brian De Palma directs the hell out of that sequence so that the tension is not felt from whether this character will die or not, but whether a drop of sweat will fall to the ground or not. I mean, after seeing that, seeing the usual Bond stuff, which is like 100 people with machine guns chasing Bond, feels almost antique. It's like, which happens even in No Time to Die's climax. It's like everybody has guns, everybody's shooting, and everybody's doing all these things, but it's not terribly exciting or interesting because there is no imagination at work there. I love the forest chase, the car chase, though. That was fantastic. But the climactic one, it was like on that island was just like something else. So I think they really have to find a reason for Bond to exist when all this other stuff is happening. The next question is from Suraj George. He asks, who's your favorite Bond actor and what is the quality that actor brought to the role that made you really enjoy his portrayal? So for me, like I said, it's basically Sean Connery, the original, because I love him as an actor, and Daniel Craig. Again, just like I said earlier, just watch the two Timothy Dalton films. They are very, very underrated, and they're a very lean kind of Bond, for that. And because by that point, Roger Moore had gone into space with Moonraker. He'd gone to, like, he was literally dressed as a clown in Octopussy at the end. And this one said, enough with the caricaturishness, enough with the, like the campiness. Let's kind of like hold it back a bit and make it serious for a couple of films and see what happens. And that's what happened. So what you're seeing with the Daniel Craig films actually started with the Timothy Dalton films. It's not some unique thing that just happened with the Daniel Craig films. The next question is from VM. He asks, what impact do you think Daniel Craig has left on the Bond franchise, and how is it different from all the other characters who've played Bond, right from Sean Connery? The answer is very simple. Daniel Craig is an actual actor, as in like an actual trained, proper actor, like Sean Connery, as opposed to Roger Moore and all those people who are not really actors. I mean, they were probably presences or something like that, but you wouldn't really call them great actors. Even Pierce Brosnan, I've liked him in a bunch of movies, but there's never been, except probably with Ghostwriter, I've never really like gotten up and said, "Wow, what a great actor!" Like, so. I think that's the quality that Daniel Craig brought. That he brought an intensity to that role that had not been there since the days of Sean Connery, and I think that's the biggest thing that they tried to exploit. I felt that the mistake that they made was in trying to make it too operatic, in the sense of, oh my God, we have to give him this tragic past, and we have to give, M is his surrogate mother, and this and that, and all that kind of stuff that happens. In that, there is a lot of stuff that gets lost. So I'm having much more fun with Mission Impossible 3, which I think is again one of the greatest action movies ever. The one with Philip Seymour Hoffman as the villain, and the one where Tom Cruise gets married. Amazing, amazing, amazing movie, because there was that wonderful touch of cruelty in that film, which you don't typically find in today's action movies, because they want like everybody from the age of 6 to 60 to watch it, so they're too scared to go beyond a certain zone. But there you had a villain who was scary as shit, and he really, really kind of like held that thing together. So that's again why Daniel Craig kind of would kind of would stand out in the future Bonds, because he's not just a good looker or whatever happens. He's a very specific kind of Bond. And speaking of which, I was watching the Graham Norton show, which is one of my favorite shows on TV. In the first film, when he comes out of the sea, everyone thought that was an homage to Dr. No, Ursula Andress coming out of the beach, right? It's like she was in a bikini, he's in a swimsuit, and that kind of stuff. But basically, he said, actually, I was just supposed to be like swimming and stuff like that, when we had no idea the water would go so low. So when I came out like that, it was just an accident, but then it became so iconic that, because it was so reminiscent of the other shots. So that was something I just wanted to share with you. The next question is from Chandrasekhar R, who asks, what's your opinion on Dev Patel as Bond? BR would make a really good Bond villain, by the way. Thank you so much. But Dev Patel, I can't see as Bond. Yeah, I don't know why, but I will tell you a very, very good recent Dev Patel movie, The Green Knight. Especially if you're a big fan of the Arthurian legends like I am, it's a very beautifully taken film. The cinematography, the editing, the music, everything makes it looks like it happened in that period. It's a damn good film. I really enjoyed it. So I would recommend that you seek it out. But the reason I think is because he has a very boyish look, and Bond to me has always been a very manly guy, which is why when you kind of look at when you're thinking about them looking at Idris Elba or Henry Cavill, I can see the appeal because Henry Cavill was, I thought, superb in Zack Snyder's film when after the evil Superman comes back, right, and he's kind of like fighting, using his powers to fight with the others. I thought he was superb in that stretch. He was really, really good, and he demonstrated again a sense of cruelty that's very crucial to Bond because Bond has that streak of cruelty. He's not a cuddly guy. He's not an emotional guy. The way Ian Fleming wrote him, which is not necessarily the way he should always be, of course, but there's that touch of cruelty to him, and I think that would be missing in Dev Patel. Yeah. The next question is from GTM, who asks, "Did you feel that gadgets and technologies were overused in No Time to Die, etc., etc.?" I love the gadgets. Yeah, what's your problem? I'm like, not enough gadgets were used. There was just like one electromagnetic watch kind of thing, which kind of destroyed that guy's eye and his brain. And I'm like, I wanted more cool stuff like that. I'm old school in that way. I don't want that cartoony element. That's what I'm talking about. That campy element. It is so much fun. In Spectre, you have a watch. At the end when Bond is getting his brain drilled and all that, it's the watch that explodes, right? But again, here there's another watch with the same thing. I'm like, why can't you think of something else, like I don't know, bracelet or a tie that I don't know has cobra venom or something like that. I mean, you should have fun with this stuff, right? There's something called not taking a film too fun, making it too fun, but also not making it too serious, And a lot of the early Bonds kind of had that lovely line. Imagine a villain with a face encrusted with diamonds. I mean, like, wow, that's crazy imagination, that kind of stuff. I think why a lot of us went there because there was all this otherworldly stuff happening, and it just made you forget your own world for a second, and kind of this one. And here we're talking about like bringing grounding Bond, bringing him back, making him normal, and I'm like, why? The next question is from Girish Kumar, who asked, "Do you think all the Bond movies since Casino Royale are heavily influenced by the Bourne trilogy? It feels like they are more or less just copy the action scenes and the emotional arc from Jason Bourne." Yeah, that's what I said. See, it's like earlier it was just James Bond, the one guy who did all these magical things, and therefore people just flocked to these movies because they were seeing something that they never saw. And now Tom Cruise is doing it, Matt Damon is doing it, somebody else is doing it, somebody else is doing it. Marvel has stuff, action, DC has stuff. Bond is very difficult that way because I think right now the best action series is easily the Mission Impossible series because they keep finding a way to kind of the group is wonderful, and unlike in the Bond movies where Q and all get one or two scenes max, with again Moneypenny gets one or two scenes max. It's about the entire ensemble gets a lot of time, so you feel like this big crews working together and having like the time of their lives, and a lot of danger is there and all that kind of stuff. So whether it's the Burj Khalifa sequence or whether it's so many other things, whether it's like him on a plane, it's crazy stuff. It's like reality, but it's real stuff, but taken a notch higher, which is what the earlier Bond was. And now I think the Mission Impossible series has easily taken over that spot. Srikumar Gupta asks, rank the 5 Daniel Craig Bond movies in your order of preference. Wow, this is a toughie. The best one is easily Casino Royale. The worst one is easily Quantum of Solace. So 2, 3, 4. I would say 2 would be Skyfall. 3 would be Spectre, and 4 would be No Time to Die. Yeah. Prasad Gunasekaran asks, hypothetical question, if Tamil cinema does have a James Bond, who can you see play Bond? See, I want to be alive and make more AskBR, so I just cannot answer this question. Thank you very much. So thank you for all your questions and keep watching Film Companion South, and we will announce the winners of the t-shirts, fully filmy t-shirts, very soon on our social media handles. And on a personal note, goodbye Daniel Craig. Let's see who takes your place.